Yo, we're going in for the win. We're going over using a reference track. What is a reference track? Basically a song that's already finished from a producer or an artist that you love, a banger that you've been listening to, that you play out, that you DJ. We're going to study their song. We're basically going to see how they make intro, build up, drop, energy, mixing, everything. We're going to see it in context first, and then we're going to do it on ourselves by scratch on our own to make sure you understand it fully. Remember, if you guys need 1v1 help, you could just hit me up directly and I can help you with that. There's also going to be full courses and projects and all kinds of racks in the Patreon. Go ahead and look at that in the description. When you look at this, we're basically looking at the grid. 1, 17, 33. When we DJ, we go by these 4 and 8 bar measures, 16 bars, 32 bars. What we're looking at is the timing. And when we use a reference track, we want to make sure that we get it lined up. Once you get it lined up on the beat grid like this, then you're able to zoom out and kind of see how they created it visually. This is really helpful. If you see here, we're using a build-up intro. You can listen here. Intro. Breakdown. Build up. And then you see I start to chop off these sections so I can start organizing it. I cut this out and I can look up here. It's 16 bars for the intro. We have an 8 bar breakdown with the brass. Sometimes I'll even label it like this. Color it. Same with this. And I'm paying attention to the end of the phrases, right? The end of the 8 bars, we have sections like this. All these fills, paying heavy attention to how the pre-drop is, where the pre-drop is, you know, see the whole 8 bars, and then we cut open space for the pre-drop. And once we get to the drop, I'll start to really analyze it, go by smaller sections. So you see this right here is 2 bars. Every drop is different, so basically you want to just figure out the main phrases. So I know that this is for sure a fake out. There's no drums. And the drums come. Then I have to figure out the call and response, like what's looping. And then you see this is the looping section. Every 2 bars we have a call. Actually, we don't have a call, we just have these last filler. The call and response structure is extended out. We have different types of tones, each of these phrases, so we can listen to them. High pitch, a little bit lower pitch, really low. We're really doing call and response, going back and forth with different tonalities, and then you'll hear these extra basses at the end of the phrases. Right here. This is the end of a phrase. We have a vocal. So these are the things we're paying attention to. The whole drop, if you highlight it, look at the bottom left, it'll say how long it actually is. 16 bars length. So we know his first part of the drop is 16 bars, and then we get halfway through. Another fake out, and then basically Marauda comes in with his different types of guns and a slightly different pattern, different call and response structure. And as you're using these reference tracks, you're basically making sure that you understand the call and response that they're using and the pattern that they're using. So dun 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 dun. Speed of the guns is important. It's helpful to study how they're making these guns, because basically they're using triplets. Then you can start to practice in doing triplets yourself. As you listen, you can listen to the drums, how loud the drums are, try to recreate that, how layered the clap is, how the rides move. And then these little end phrase basses. That's basically transitioning from section to section. So these are really important. You can listen to how there's two different tones here. That's how he's adding variation. Essentially, it's the same sound, just in different patterns with a little bit of variation. And then the fake outs. The cool little tricks right here. These are just things that you want to look over. So using a reference track will help a lot. Just so you can learn song structure, layering, really get to know the energy and intensity of a song. And then lastly, you can add a left meter and an imager. You can see how wide and how loud their song is. So you can start to match. So like intro, for example, is quieter. We're at -14. -13. And then once we get to the brass, we label it too. Sometimes I do this -14 left, just so I can understand like how loud dynamics go. -8. -5. And then drop. Cool, so -3. So now I know exactly how loud I should be, basically gauging my song. -14, intro, starts to slowly get louder and louder until we reach -3, and the drop. That's really helpful to see. And then of course you can look at the image, see how wide it is at the drop. Full stereo image, just build up. Grasses. Nice and full. You achieve this fullness by layering. So if I try to recreate a song, I can then use this template to then start making my own. If I listen to the intro, for example, I hear like a cool horn, slow horn, vocal, a chord that's being hit. So when I try to recreate it, then I can make that chord, add a horn, and a flute. And some atmosphere under it, you know. Some cool, using the root note. The notes that I'm choosing are going to be the same notes as that song. If you just throw the song in a key finder, you can figure out the key. And that's free. Then you can go ahead and know exactly what notes you're supposed to choose. Because once you're in here, you pick your scale. You have F sharp minor. And then boom, you have your notes. You can try to match the notes as best as you can if you're remaking the actual song, or you can use the same technique, like use their timing and structure and use your own notes and make something new. The timing and structure really is just to help once you start DJing it and making sure that it's in a proper form. So now that we do this, I'll show you how to throw in a track into Ableton and chop it up so that you can start using it as your reference track. Start learning from the pros. Keep in mind too, once I'm in like these brass sections, if I hear a brass that loud, I'm going to try to make a brass that loud. You'll see layering is a big thing. You can see here with the layers, we have multiple sustains. I'll then resample it. I'll process the group. Make something big, you know. Then I make sure if this stack is stereo, then I'll have a mono layer as well. And you have something nice and big. Just keep that in mind. Just one sample or one preset will probably not be enough once you're trying to make it as loud and big as the songs that you're referencing. Same thing with the effects and sweeps, you know, lots of layers will help to really get the intensity that you need. You want to fill up the frequency spectrum. Add impacts. Build up drums. Kicks, snares. As I use my reference track, I listen to the type of snare that they're using in the build-up. I even layer more snares so I can make it as fat as possible. And then the kick, of course. And then I try to get the pattern down as best as possible when I'm doing recreations. And that's what you see here, trying to recreate the pattern that I'm hearing in the reference track, which is usually one of the hardest parts, but that's where you learn the most. Trying to get the rhythm and flow of someone who's been practicing a lot. You can skip a lot of time learning just by doing that. And then you practice yourself, start adding your own flair and twist. Let's open a new live set. We're going to pick a random song, throw that boy in. So then the first thing you need to know is the timing, because see now everything's not lined up on the grid. We have to make sure that we get everything lined up. So zoom into the beginning, cut off any extra space that doesn't need to be there. Move it to the beginning. And then take a little zoom out. Check up how it's lined. We're at 140 right away. We know most rhythm and dubstep and crowd is around 140, 150. So we'll just try these ranges and see if it starts to line up. It looks like it does. And it lines up at 145, which is a good thing. Usually we're going by fives, the BPM. So this is the first transient to line up. Then we just need to make sure all the other ones line up, especially at the drop. Like here, doesn't look like it's lining up. That's an issue. There it is. So that means that's good. This sound may be on purpose delayed. You hear it's a rhythm function sound, so that makes sense it's delayed. Kicks, though, should not be delayed. Kicks and snare should be on the beat. The downbeat is like 18 here at the beginning. Snares would be at the 0.3. You zoom out, look at your full bar, 18 and 19. 18 is a downbeat. 13 is a downbeat. 19 is a downbeat. And then the ones in between, the 0.2 and the 0.4, are the offbeats. So your snares are always on the 0.3s. When you're lining up these songs, you want to make sure that your snares are hitting on the 0.3s, because when they made it in their DAW, that's what was going down. So we need to make sure it lines up in our DAW. We hear the snare. This is the drop, lines up perfectly on grid, so that's really good news. We'll look at the last drop. And that lines up too, so we know for sure that this is lined up to our grid. You then zoom out, listen to it. Then we're going to separate it by section, essentially. So I think this is the next section, that's why I made a cut. It is. So this is no drums. I can rename it no rums or no drums. And then this one. That's what I do with those. Oh yeah, he builds it up super fast. Yeah, so right away we're seeing he just built it up so quickly. We can see he only spent 16 bars and then dropped it. This is really common to see in rhythm and dubstep. They play 16 bars, drop the song. Other times you'll see this, so twice the length, That's 32 bars and then drop. That's what you start to notice over time when you're using different reference tracks. So now you can see brass, impacts, vocal, reverb, atmosphere, nature, easy stuff. Then you can learn by the way he's layering his intros. He's adding the drums, doing his build up. Pre-drop. And then how he did his drop. So we got a bass hit, vocal, then we get into it. Cool, so we basically want to find the differences in this so we can try to make something that can keep going, because it's a sound that keeps playing over time. And for him to make sure it's not repetitive, he's changing the tonality of the main rhythm sound over time. So like this section is one sound and it changes here. And it changes again here. So then we have, you can see the way he made the drop is essentially 3 sections. 3 different tones with the main. So we have 2 main sounds. We have a dan, 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 and then we have bum, 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 bum. But the bum, 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 that rhythm is the one that's changing over time in pitch, which allows us to listen to this whole section without it sounding repetitive. That's really cool to notice. Also good too, you can also get out a tuner and see what they're doing in the drop to see what sub notes they're playing, because the tuner will pick up the sub. We can kind of do some studying. Nice. So you see it starts with a, actually hard to see. When you see something like this, that means there's pitch bending going on. And if you listen to it, that's what we're hearing. It's like boom, 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 boom. The thing about him is lots of pitch bend sub. So one thing about referencing the song is you can notice how they're manipulating the sub to add rhythm and groove, and pitch bend is just amazing. This is really cool. Let's see what he does over here. So this is essentially a fill, right? Look at the dark gray and look at the light gray. That's how we want to arrange all this. This is the drop right here. This whole section, which is 8 bars. Well, this is the first phrase, so we can just call this A. B. Because this is a fill at the end. Then we have a new phrase that starts. So these are the things we have to pay attention to in referencing, because when we make our song, this is how we'll be able to, you know, add intensity over time, make things sound professional. We'll see this is very similar to this, but they added a vocal this section. Now we're starting to see the calls pop up. So we have a big call, big response with variations in it, and a fill at the end. Vocal fill. Silence, adding dynamic range. That's one thing to notice. It's loud here, silence here. Really important how he goes from loud to quiet. Dynamically, that makes you go crazy. Now we can kind of assume that each 8 is a phrase. And then we'll be able to check by listening. Now you start to see 4 8-bar sections form. Highlight all of it. Look at the bottom left. Boom. Our drop is 32 bars. That's what we want to see. We want to see exactly how long the drop is. And then we break back down at the end. Then we can start to see all the fills and the calls pop up. Start to chop them out. And then you can arrange the responses and kind of listen to the differences between each one. So our drop has 4 main responses. We want to see, because they're not all the same. So basically we want to see how they're different. So as I listen, I'll start adding notes so I can kind of understand the differences. That's a new vocal, you know, you can make notes on stuff like that. This one's a higher pitch. It definitely sounds different than the first one. Actually, that one's all high pitch. This one's low. Oh, so this one's like low. See, this is why we use reference tracks, so we can really understand what's going on. Get the differences. This one's lower pitch. Then that one's higher. This one's gangsta flow. And then you see it repeat. So then you want to just make sure all the repeated sections are split, and you see they had slight variation in this compared to. So those are the things you want to take notice of. You can recolor them, make it a little easy. And then at here, do the same. So each phrase we have a cool dun dun dun. At the end of each phrase, you have a nice cool little dun dun dun. Let's hear it. That one's really similar to C. Oh gosh. And then we have our notes taken on the drop. And you can try to make your own drop and just learn by recreating the energy, the intensity, the layers, and try to reach here. And over time, you'll know how to structure, do your calls, responses, fills, and then you can really start expanding it. Make your song longer, make your song darker, make your song cooler. Look at the music theory tricks that they're doing it. There's so much to do with reference tracks, and I hope you guys really learned something from this. I've been requested a lot to make this video. I hope it helps. Once again, reach out to me if you need any help with anything. Have a great day. Keep learning and keep grinding, my dudes. Stay fresh. Later.
My man, I forgot to mention pandemic. Still running the kitchen, whipping that shit in the kitchen. Like a mention of Twitter, make you go missing. Don't do the snitch dissing. I'm stuck with that niggas, what cause you niggas. Like you niggas, got the money, my niggas don't get it, cause it's what they government printing.